Now in today's video I'm going to try to share some excellent paint information that if you're new to painting or you want to paint your motorcycle you might find helpful. I'm sure some people will. And we're going to go hang gliding in Brazil as a little sidebar somewhere through this video. I'm not sure where, and you'll see how it ties in the middle of the video. And as always, I'm going to try to answer the questions that have come in on the channel. Some of them I think I know the answer to, and when I don't know the answer, I defer or I try to find somebody who does know it more than me. And that's basically all I can do on this. But it is interesting to hear some of the questions that people ask because it gives me a little insight into how I can help them. And I'm sure a lot of these people know things that I don't know, and I'm always thankful when other people share information with me. So today on this video we're going to try to respond to comments on our YouTube channel. This is number 16 in this set of videos, and possibly the information on this. If this kind of information interests you, you can just go back on the channel and search question and answer and look at the other ones. Anyway, we have some new questions. Some of them concern braking. They're basically about motorcycles, some about riding, and a lot of them just deal with one thing that a lot of people have issues with. Just common sense. Just some common sense things. Anyway, and we always try to throw in a few funny stories. So the first question today comes from Michael, a very basic question, something, believe me, this is the kind of things that why we have a channel and why we try to answer, not only answer, but share from other people. Send in information, and we have some of that today, of course. This is from Michael. He wanted to know about painting plastic parts. Now, it's very simple. Plastic is not exactly like painting metal, because what will happen with plastic parts, it's the thinner that'll go down into the plastic at some point, especially if it's high penetrating thinner, and make the plastic, I call it melt, but it makes it look like an alligator. So that first thing is to seal it, and the way you do that is with primer sealer. If a can says primer, maybe it'll work, but primer sealer means it'll work almost every time, unless you really wet the part down with thinner. But remember, it's not the paint that's causing the problem. It's the thinner in it that causes the problem. Now this is good information, people new to painting. This is the kind of information I love to share. It'll always save people some aggravation. If you're painting metal and you have it down to raw, where it's just basically bare metal, you want to have a primer. The brand doesn't matter. This is what matters. It's a self-etching primer. That means this will go in and get a good bond to the metal. Sandable primer is going to be for when you want to do extensive body work with Bondo and you want to blend surfaces in, and you're going to do more body work with this. This usually winds up in being very, very thick when you're done, and to me, when you don't do it correctly, it's prone to crack in time. But this is what you want. Any primer, this just happens to be Duplicolor, and it'll say the word sealer. Primer sealer. That's the key. If you're going to paint plastic, primer sealer. Give it a good coat or 2 coats. Let it dry. If you're not in a rush, let it dry for a couple hours. And then paint with don't go more than 50-50 with the thinner, and I think you'll have good success every time. But that's really the key to is understanding what the primers do and what they're made for. And there's a world of other kind of primers. There's epoxy primer, different things that are made for special metals and special plastics. But this, the Duplicolor primer, for what we're doing, customizing and restoring bikes, this I use a lot of, and it's always worked well for me. And it's on all of the videos that I've ever made. Okay, now here's the kind of thing that I think our channel, we try to address it and we try to make it efficient and also make it fun to watch too, as a side benefit. Anyway, Dougie sent in a comment to the video. He watched the check engine light video, and on his, what happened is he rode for a while and it went off by itself. Well, I didn't ride for a while, so I don't know if it would maybe just go off by itself. Since in my case it was a brand new bike, what I did, I looked at YouTube. I found that what was out there was a gentleman that had posted a very good video of how he did it. He showed the tool, but he never showed the wire that you needed to connect it. And I bought the tool, and then I waited and waited, and I went to go connect it, and it was like it wasn't going to happen. Then I realized you need the connector. Now, See, the gentleman that did it, he had the best of intentions to help people, but you can't leave out a step. And that's why some of my videos get boring. I know I've heard the word boring and long. Because I try not to leave out a step, because some of the people really want to know how to shut that check engine light off. Now, to make my point, and I'm further down in here, I got to look for this. This is pretty funny. There's another check engine light, and I got to address this. I'll do them both at the same time. Okay, from Picard. He has an MT-09, a 2022, I believe, a 21. And he used my video to correct the check engine light, and he said, bingo, it worked perfect. Well, I'm glad about that, and of course that's why we have a channel. It's why we spend a little time and energy to do this. But I also had somebody, I don't have it, it was on the last question and answer, somebody had an MT-07, and I didn't know whether the same connector, knowing Yamaha, I would think the same connector would work. And I asked him to please copy me, now maybe he didn't even get the tool yet, if it worked on an MT-07 and it was interchangeable with an 09, maybe it's with a 10 too, I don't know. Maybe with all Yamahas, I don't know. But if somebody out there knows that, please share it, because I'd like to know, and the people that spend the time and energy to watch this video, maybe you could help them out too. Now, most of my older bikes, like the RD and the GS and the FZR, there is no check engine light, even the 750. So to me, this was all new stuff, and I learned it from YouTube. I figured out what was missing, and I shared it on one of my videos. The next one is not really a question. It came in as a comment section. I was at Perry's, and Michelle had watched the video, and she had asked me about the buttons, if the buttons on her discs were frozen up. So what I did, I went out to the parking lot where her bike was and checked the buttons. Now, in theory, and this is basic information, I don't know if a lot of people really understand this, or they know, or maybe I don't know all the information too. Good information to know. If you're a motorcyclist, this is really good information. So let's go back. This is a GS, but an RD is the same way. Older bikes had a disc that was one piece. This is one piece. So what would happen when it warps up from track day use, or from really hard braking on the street, or just wear and tear? The edge, right at the edge here, it would go, and now the lever, let me go drop it on my knee, the lever would start to pump. You'd get a pumping action. Now, when you have these discs, good luck. There's no way to correct that I know of. Other people I know have machined the discs flat. Joe Padula has done it. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't, but that lever pump is really annoying. And what happens, when you're getting right up to a light, at the last second it'll go boop, 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 and almost want you to go over the handlebars. So this is old technology. This is 30, 40-year-old technology. Now, to understand what happens with modern discs, and these are the FZR, these are the original discs that came with the bike. They did about 5 years of track days, and they got warped. And I got used to it, even on the track. It's annoying. So what I did a little research on this. EBC suggests that these buttons on EBC discs, you can always turn them with your bare hands. And I said, oh, I can't turn these at all. I looked at some other videos of people that supposedly have had the problem, and they said you just spin these. And I did that, and I went out and wow, it got a lot better. But what happens is then as time goes by, the play that's in them, this gets sloppy. And this gets loose like a race bike. A real MotoGP race bike, this is very loose. Because what it does, as the disc warps, it doesn't give you the lever pump. So this is an important thing. Now, scallop in the edge, if you look at some of the modern bikes, they're scalloped, that helps. But what really helps is if you have no lever pump at all, don't touch a thing. You're good to go. Your discs are not warped. If they're warped, you can kind of like put a Band-Aid over it, the same way you can take a clutch on a bike that's slipping and sand the metal plates with the 400 grit paper and maybe get another couple thousand miles out of it. But that gets you through. But the only real solution, the solution to everything, is just buy new discs. And EBC discs, they're $400 to $500 a set. So I try to do this, and by the way, the video is out there on my channel. There's more than one too, of how to loosen these up. But keep in mind, if you make them too loose, what happens, you then have a race bike. You go over a bump and it goes clunk, 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 and that can really be annoying. So But the real solution is save up your money, like I did. And Pokey was an EBC dealer. He got me a set of brand new rotors. Thank you, Pokey. Now you can see the 650 has scalloped rotors. They have never warped, even on the times when I've taken it on the track. It's been the brakes actually work pretty good on a track. And the GS I've already replaced with EBC rotors from Pokey. Again, thank you. And the RD, I don't even know if they make replacements. Okay, this is something I really treasure, and I love doing the videos just for this reason, as I have developed over maybe 15 years or so of doing this, a worldwide collection of friends that they're fun to interact with. They send me pictures. Well, this is from Stephen Walker in Australia. Now, Stephen, I've had you on a video many times. Stephen, at one time, if I remember right, and maybe I just have some of this backwards, he was painting a bike, had a run into clear, wanted to know how to fix it. He was doing some wheels. And when he was all done, we had corresponded back and forth, and thank God the internet is so nice to do that, even with pictures. And at the end, he sent me this bike that looked pretty good. Stephen, I was really impressed. Anyway, I'm going to show his bike at the end of this little thing. But he always sends me pictures of his bike where there's kangaroos in the background and stuff. See, I can't do that here. I don't have any kangaroos. Not so far, anyway. Anyway, and he did send this, and I looked. Hey, great. I got the little letter. I read the letter. And what he did, he was working on his brake system, and the little caps that go on where you bleed the brakes, he needed to buy some. So he bought some, and he's looking at my video. This is really funny that he did this. And he looked at the black and gold Ninja, and he said, "You're missing a cap on the back." And I said, and I went out to the garage right away, took a look, and I said, "Yeah, I am missing it." He noticed it in Australia, and I didn't notice it riding a bike twice a week. So I don't know, maybe that shows he's a lot smarter than me. But anyway, what he did, he attached to the back of this 2 of these little gizmos. I'm going to go out to the garage right now and install the one. Maybe I'm missing both of them, I don't know. But Stephen, I really appreciate little details like this. And a fella, this is true, a fella named Henry, how observant are these people? He's watching a video. Henry, he says, the cotter pin in my GS looks like it's going to come out. I went out and I said, yeah, you know, when you're my age, you forget to do a lot of stuff. Anyway, I went out, and the cotter pin was bent enough that it wouldn't come out, but from far away, it looked like that could be a problem. I appreciate when people look at bikes, and I've done the same thing to people at Perry's and places. I've looked at their tires, or we found people that look like it's time for tires, and they don't seem to get on board with that. Or you look at their brake, the amount of brake material left on the pads, and if you use up all the material on the pads, and like Lauren did this already on her Ducati Monster, you use it up and the steel starts going into the rotors, you're going to buy a $250 rotor, and probably it's going to be a big major job to get that to run, to be back the way you want it to be. It's not going to be a $10 repair. So always check, anytime you have the bike apart, check the brake, how much material is left on the pads. Usually there's a groove in there, and when the groove disappears, you replace the pads. Simple as that. Now, talking about pads, you can buy EBC pads, and I always tell people, if you're going to ride on the street, just buy street pads. But there's other pads that are made for racing, and everybody thinks, I don't know why this is. This is a common thing in motorcycling. Oh, I'm just going to go get racing pads for my my blank, blank, blank. And what they do, you buy these racing pads, they're over $100, and they're made to operate at 250 degrees. They're not made to work at street temperatures. Like racing tires are not made to work on the street. They slip and slide like crazy when you don't have them hot. So getting street pads, and if you get, there are some that have an EBC always tells you this ahead of time. Some, they give a little bit better grip, but they're rough on wear on the rotors. So if you don't want to replace your rotors on a regular basis, the best alternative I can ever suggest is get EBC ordinary pads that are made for street riding. Unless you're doing heavy duty track days, or unless you're doing something that I don't know what that would be. That's the best advice, especially for new riders that don't understand. Putting racing parts on a street bike is not always such a great idea. Sometimes it bites you. So these are the little parts that Stephen gave me, and Stephen, thank you very much, of course. We're going to install them right now. So this is where that part belongs, and of course, it's relatively simple to get it on. And that keeps out the dirt and road grime and everything. So, Stephen, I do appreciate that. so much. These are the photos of Stephen Walker's bike, and it looks pretty nice and clean to me. And this is from Australia, Brisbane, I believe. Anyway, all that information about not using track day stuff on the street, if you've ever done track days, you know that's probably pretty true. Now, Vlad asked me to mention another thing that I think is kind of misinformation that goes around and you don't really know. Sometimes you don't know that you don't know, whatever. Vlad has a Mondial. It's a Mondial, I don't know how you say it, I'm not Italian. But anyway, it's a really exclusive bike. There's only 5 in the United States. It's got an RC51 engine. And somebody watched the video and they commented, I don't even remember the fellow's name because I didn't respond to it. And I said, Vlad, you respond to it. And he said, oh, it's nothing but an RC51 with a different paint job. You know, it really isn't. If you look at it close, first of all, the engine is a factory race engine. It's got more power than an RC51. It's got the really exclusive forks that are thousands more than the normal Öhlins. It's got a different shock. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And it is not, and not to mention the bodywork. So and then this is a very good point I wanted to mention. A lot of times Vlad and I will be riding, and he's riding one of his exclusive bikes. Now he's got several of them. He's got Bomotas, Mondials, and Aprilas, and now he's got a Buell. So when you ride with somebody with one of these bikes, you don't do daredevil stunts. Now, we were riding with other people, and I won't mention any names, but they think it's like a cool thing. Let's see if we can get close to Vlad and show him how cool we are. And, you know, you do that when you're on a track bike, not on one of these exclusive, hard to find, impossible to find parts for. And I've worked on a lot of Vlad's bikes. He treasures them the way I treasure my collection. My collection is a much lower dollar collection, but it suits my needs. His collection is just absolutely off the chart. And the biggest thing is he rides them safely. Now, he's got a track bike, so when he's on a track, I know he's a wild man like Luciano is. But when we're riding on the street, there is no high-risk poker stuff going on. So just so other people that ride with us understand, we don't do the kind of things 17-year-old kids do when you're riding a bike that there's only 1 of 5 in the country. Now, many of my friends have these very high-end bikes. Dale has some beautiful high-end bikes, and it just doesn't make sense to me that you would want to play bumper cars with one of these bikes. When I was out, we wanted to go for a nice smooth ride, and no chance we're going to have any problems. And look at it close, it's not really an RC51. See, this is what people think when they don't think it through. And look at it from a lot of different angles, and look at all the carbon fiber work on this bike. Oh, there's a lot of it. I always think another nice thing about our channel and about our circle of friends is we share funny stories. We share things that are human. We're all human. Unfortunately, some of us are a little more human than others at times. But anyway, this is really well, I should know how funny this is. Gorgon, he watched one of the videos recently where I had put on some footage at the end of the video of me flying an A6, a T6, I don't remember, the AT6. It's a Texan. Anyway, it's a World War II training plane, and my wife had gotten me a ride, and we did some aerobatics, and it was a lot of fun. But the video quality is terrible, and the whole video is out on the channel. But the problem is it's hard to watch because it's such low quality. And that was back in the days when you had VHS cameras on the wings of the plane. So anyway, now this is pretty funny. He says he was flying around in a plane and he got sick. Well, you know what? When I had my air coupe, you don't have a small plane without having some barf bags around in the cockpit, because that happens to a lot of people, motion sickness. Actually, it's not a funny thing. You can really get sick, and I've had people get sick in a plane I was flying, and cleaning it up was not the high point of my day. Anyway, that's pretty funny. Anyway, now this is pretty funny too, and I want to mention this to Gorgon. Gorgon, I'm doing this for you. I was in Brazil, and I got, because of the person that was my host, I was doing a seminar for them down there, and model airplane seminar, and I had gotten to go hang gliding on Ipanema Beach. Well, to go hang gliding on Ipanema Beach, first off, you're at the bottom of at the beach, and this is all on video on my channel too for anybody interested. Just look up hang gliding in Brazil. And here you are, you're at the bottom of the hill. People that never went hang gliding don't notice. And you've met a person you've never met before, total stranger, and there's a bunch of tubes and a bunch of canvas, and you sign up. Yeah, you want to go for a flight. Well, you look up at the mountain and you can't see the top of the mountain. It's in the clouds. It is one of the highest mountains, I think, in the for hang gliding. Maybe it's the highest one. But anyway, he said, yeah, I want to try this. I want to get this off my bucket list. So Karen says, God, go for it. Be a tough guy. It takes them, they disassemble this thing. It looks like all tubes. Put it on the roof of a four-wheel drive Jeep. And you get in the Jeep, and it takes 45 minutes of them doing this, getting to the top of the mountain. You get to the top of the mountain, and you think, oh, there's going to be a refreshment stand, a porta potty, or some girls in bikinis. What's at the top is a big statue of the Virgin Mary. And then there's a ramp that has about a 30-degree incline down, and you have one guy at each end of the hang glider. Once they assemble it and they put all the cotta pins in and the dental floss or whatever they used to hold it together. And you do some practice runs, and you have to do one step, like 6 steps, and then you jump to get off the ground. Now, this is all on video, of course. So maybe I can find it and put some on this video or at a future video. But anyway, the point is you jump off and you look down. You're in the clouds. A trailer truck looks like an ant. You can't tell a trailer truck from a bus, a car from an evergreen tree. And then they take you out over the ocean. And when you get out over the ocean, it's okay, you could fly it now. And yeah, it's easy to, not hard to figure out how to fly it. But my God, is it ever takes, the wind is in your face, there's no motor. And then halfway through this thing, the rain starts coming even harder. It was raining when we jumped off the mountain. A lot of fun though. You don't want to not have that on. If that's on your bucket list, Gorgon, you have no idea. That's all I can say. You have no idea. But it happens to all of us. So Gorgon, if you think you get a knot in your stomach and you think you want to barf or anything, this believe me, this is the limit of my technology right here. This is a guy, and this kite is put together with chewing gum, I think. Anyway, we jump. Oh, you hit your head on a pipe. And I wanted to, by the way, this whole video is out on my channel. You search the channel for MVI-2499 and it'll come up. It's not listed as a hang gliding video because there are other ones out there. And this is in Rio de Janeiro, and it's over Ipanema Beach. Now, what I just said, and this of course is me in the raincoat, it was raining here. It was just drizzling just a little bit, but it started raining more and more and more as this flight went on. You can see that on a camera lens. Now, as you go over to the city of Rio, and we're out over the mountains here, and this was a wonderful experience. I mean, I'm glad I did this, and I have a real appreciation for hang gliding now. And I think this is one of the only places in the world that has that high of a mountain that you can really do this. But when you get ready to run and you see at the end of that cliff, it looks you're real macho and tough until it's time to run. It's like, you know, looking at a lion in a cage, and you're real tough until you put your hand in the cage. But anyway, this was great. And the guy that was the pilot did let me fly it there for a while, and it was just a ton of fun. This was, I'm so glad I have this off my bucket list, because in the United States, I don't think there's this kind of the availability. You can see how high we are here. That's Rio de Janeiro down there, and we're it took 45 minutes to get to the top of this mountain. And Gorgon, if you were doing this, and you were up there and we were sailing along, we're going to go out over the ocean here. And there's other people hang gliding too, and they try to come up next to you and bump you and look at you and whatever. But it was a lot of fun. And I have to thank Thomas Case, who invited me to come to Brazil with Karen. And he was our host for 2 weeks, and we got to see and do so many things. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And we also got some of the other things that I have on my video, some of the samba shows in San Paulo. They were unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that in the United States. Somewhere down in the next week or so, I'll put some of that on a video. The trouble with these older videos, I never marked what was on them. I just mark them as NVI and a movie and a number. And this one is MVI-2499 if you want to download the whole thing off my channel and look at the whole flight. But I don't want to turn this into a hang gliding video. And this guy had a good sense of humor, by the way. You see the strap holding your legs up, just so you get a little more aerodynamic. And he's got a similar thing on his the back of his legs. I had a look. I think he's standing in it. But this was really cool. I know Luciano would have loved this. I got to sign Luciano up for one of these flights. And there's another hang glider up there. And it was not a pretty day, but we were leaving. We were going to leave Rio the next day, and this was really the last chance to do it. And when I think of doing track days and doing other things on dirt bikes, and yeah, this is somewhere near the top of that list. Okay, this next comment came in, and I've corresponded with this gentleman before. Booza is his handle. Booza, we've gone back and forth about mirrors, and he thought the mirrors on my bike looked a little bit too big. They look like corn stalks or something. And it's perfectly okay that people do have various tastes in motorcycles, and in women, and in life, and if they shave or not, or use deodorant, among other things. Anyway, he was watching the videos, and I guess one of the emails he had sent me says he enjoys the videos and he watches them every day before work. That's great. I'm really happy that we share this little interaction. And it's not important that your opinion and mine are exactly the same. You can share it with me, and I try never to belittle somebody because maybe they don't know, or maybe they need to learn, because there was a time in my life when I had to learn from other people too. And now I'm in a position I can share some of it. I'm more than happy to do that. But anyway, he watched the videos before work, and I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, he was watching an R1 video, and he says, "You don't shift enough." Well, and I explained to him, and I put it in the comment section, but I wanted to explain in detail. The R1 is geared very, very high. And so is Luciano's ZX-10. When I rode his ZX-10, I thought I was on the R1. It's geared for 90 miles an hour before the shift light comes on. Now, when the shift light comes on at 90, where I ride, there's very few places the shift light comes on. And I like the sound of when I go around a switchback, backing off the gas. And I'm not racing anybody, so it doesn't matter. If you were racing somebody, maybe there'd be some reason to do some shifting. But I love riding that bike around, and even in second gear and just backing off the gas. That cross-plane motor makes a wonderful sound. In real life, I don't think it comes across 100% on the video, especially with these GoPros with the sock around them. I don't know. But anyway, if you're on a racetrack, the rules change. Now, people never get this straight. The rules on the street and the rules on the track are two completely different things. What works on the street and works very well really doesn't work that well on the track. Tires are a good example. You don't want to have tires that are durometer out at 80 and ride them on a track. You're going to go on your behind. And you don't want to have racetrack tires on a street bike that they're never going to get at the operating temperature, and they're only made to work at operating temperature. That's why people have tire warmers. So the common sense thing I was talking about. But anyway, but a lot of people don't notice. Now, Booza, I'm just going to guess, you're a young guy. I just turned 77, so I'm on the other end of this. I'm going off the cliff in a handbasket there, like O.J. Simpson did at the end of the movie. But anyway, another thing, when you don't shift a lot, you're basically saving a lot of wear and tear on the clutch, the transmission, maybe the tires, I don't know. And again, I never try to compare what works well on the track because the rules are so different. And people that have never gone to a racetrack and started paying for the parts that get consumed on a regular basis, including the bikes themselves, they think putting racing brake pads and racing tires on a street bike's a cool thing. It's buyer beware anyway. But anyway, another thing too, it's just like, another example is, if you like doing wheelies, and I know most young people get a big thrill out of doing wheelies, maybe older people do too, but I have the traction control set on the MT-09 so it can't wheelie. Now, for me, that's a safety thing because I'm riding alone on a really back road far from home, and I don't want to, in the middle of a switchback, have a wheelie. If I'm with my friends and they're all drinking beer on Friday night, get out on the street and do a wheelie, you're a cool guy. So, but Booza, I hope this gave you some information. I know you already responded with that when you ride around and get up to a certain RPM, the bike vibrates. It shouldn't do that. It shouldn't really. Now, I don't know we never talked about what kind of bike you have. And maybe if you have a Harley or something, that's true. But I don't have most modern Japanese bikes, 4-cylinder bikes, it's not a big deal doing that. And an MT-09, you could ride around at Redline all day long. That engine is bulletproof. And one final thought, if you have a motorcycle, and it doesn't matter what kind of bike, and at high RPMs, or just before you would normally shift it, it's vibrating itself to death, I think the first thing you should do, Get a good quality torque wrench, find out the torque setting on all the engine bolts. And it could be that one of those, or more than one, because once one gets loose, it's like flat tires on a trailer truck. Check those engine bolts. A couple of questions comments that have come in, and I'm not sure I have the exact answer, but I have some information that may be useful. A fellow named Big Hands has an MT-09, and he says he's amazed that I don't have to keep adjusting the chain. And to be honest, it was Turbo Steve. Mention this, give him the credit. When a bike is brand new, and he had bought a new bike just before I bought my MT-09, so he had a brand new counter sprocket, a brand new rear sprocket, and a brand new chain. And he says, wow, we don't have to adjust the chain as often. And I noticed on the MT-09, wow, that thing just goes forever before you got to adjust it. And I'm not sure I don't overdo it with the cleaning and the lubing, and I probably do though. But I do clean it religiously, and I do lube it religiously. And this would have another big thing on it. If you ride in the rain and that gets in, it kills up some of the moisture gets into the links, that might have something to do with it. If you let the chain get rusty, that certainly doesn't play in your favor, because the rust itself is rubbing compound and it works itself down. But I know for what worked for me over the years, many, many years, is keep the chain clean, keep it lubed, keep it adjusted. And what they always tell you when you replace the chain, replace the sprockets. I don't do that, to be honest. But maybe I should. But that was what he's referring to, is now my MT-09 has way over 12,000 miles, and it hasn't started stretching the chain out to where you got to adjust it on a regular basis. Maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know. Another thing, when I replace the chain, I always get Vlad to get me a very high quality chain. Not a price that, there's chains on Amazon for $50 that are made for other uses. I always like to get an O-ring chain, a big major brand, and there's plenty of videos out on my channel to replace the chain, Windy Ertnowski in quotation marks, and replace chain if you want to see. And I've tried to do it a different way on several of the bikes. Okay, another cool thing, Mark, this is what I love about the channel. He liked the Motion Pro bead breaker and the tips. Well, yeah, the tips, I think they're gold. Because a lot of people, the reason they would not change their own tires, they don't have a bead breaker. Well, for $50 you can get a Motion Pro bead breaker and a jar of Windex, and you can take the tires off for the rest of your life. And when I hear the prices, and I'm not mentioning any dealer's name, somebody just told me they had their tires changed at a dealer and balanced and installed and everything. I'd rather buy another bike, to be honest. Well, everybody's different, we know that. Now Patrick, he has a lowering link on an MT-07, and he wanted to know if he could lower the forks to keep the bike equally. Well, let's just show it. The bike is level. You put a lowering link, it turns into a chopper. So in theory, you should lower the front almost the same amount. Now, that's the theory, but this angle that sets the fork, rake, and trail is a personal choice thing. On a MotoGP bike and on a dirt bike, it's totally different. And on some bikes, on MotoGP bikes, they change it for the track. They change the height of the swing arm. There's all kind of adjustments. It's what works for you. And if you don't know how to adjust it or why you would adjust it, if you're riding the bike, you have to say to yourself, what do I want to change? Do I want to make it easier to get on and off the bike? We changed one for Chris. We changed the link for Luciano on the ZX10. And I asked him, did anything change? Does the handling go bad or anything? Nothing. Nothing. My R1 has a lower link. The FZR has lower links that I made. Nothing changes. Now, some people, I'm going to guess, if you're like a person like Joe Padula that's got years and years of AMA road racing, he may notice a difference. But a street rider that's riding around, I don't think so. And that's one of the things I always think. If you don't know and you ask 3 people, you're probably going to get 3 different answers. There's a good choice. You might even get 4 different answers. I don't know. But anyway, I do like sharing that information that I have already accumulated over my lifetime. Now, I've lowered the front of pretty much all my bikes that I was able to lower, and then gone back and forth a few times till I found what for me was the sweet spot. And a lot of times that's about halfway, for me anyway, between where you can adjust it the max, and it's right in the middle of the setting. And for me, that works very well. Now, everybody knows I'm always trying to accumulate data on tires. Tires to me are a fascinating thing. And I don't pretend to be an expert. I just gather a lot of data and then try to make my own opinion up. I try not to believe what the advertisements say. Anyway, a fellow named John sent me in this, that he has the original Bridgestone tires that came on his 2021 MT-09, and he got 5,700 miles out of the rear tire. And those are the original Bridgestones, 5,700. I don't know if that's good or bad. If you ride very aggressively, that might be real good. If you ride like you're on a Goldwing, maybe that's not that good. But again, I only know what works for me. I know on my bikes, I keep exact records of every time I change a tire and which ones wore out very fast and which ones stood the test of time. And he just put on Michelin 6s, and he mentioned that they're so easy to mount. They went on by themselves. That's the second person I heard that said that. So I'm looking forward to having Michelin 6s, but I still have to finish. I have 2 bikes with Michelin 5s now, and I still want to run out the test. The reason is the Michelin 2s that I used for years and years, and the 3s, they didn't, the grip is fine. They were fine in every way. The only thing is they didn't last as long as I would like. Now, I don't know about the Angels that are on the R1 now. We're going to have to find out. That's until the test is over. So the point is, on a street bike, if you're not getting step outs, if you've got traction at the lean angles you're comfortable with and you're wearing the tire almost to the edge and nothing's stepping out, you don't need softer tires. There's no advantage. In fact, maybe there's even a disadvantage that I don't know about. But anyway, just my point. Now, a couple of reasons I'm so fascinated by tires is over my lifetime, I've gone through a lot of tires. I've changed them and worn out tire irons and whatever. And I'm always amazed at a couple of things. How much you can make the bike handling change. And I'm very fussy about how the bike handles. Some people aren't. They just manhandle it or do whatever they have to do. And a lot of people are willing to put up with tires that wear out in a very short amount of time. Or some people are willing to trade away the grip so that they last forever. Well, I don't know. But I know on my GS, as an example, the Michelin Commanders work great. The Sport Demons on this bike were just outstanding, and I did have other brands on there that I took them off halfway through the life. The Sport Demons on this Pirelli Sport Demons always seem to be the best. And I've done a lot of track days on this bike, so I know that's working for me. Now, this bike has had a variety of tires. It eats tires for lunch. There was times I couldn't get 4,000 miles out of a set of Michelin 2s or 3s. It just eats the tires. But then keep in mind, we did use this bike for a track day. Now, my RD, I had trouble getting a tire. I wanted a Sport Demon rear tire. I waited 2 months for it. Vlad eventually got it, but it's always good information to know about tires. Now, Adam, this is one I always think is important, and I always think I can really be a help here. Adam just got his first bike. He got a Ninja 400. Couldn't be a better bike. Perfect. Everybody I know, Ray has 2 of them, Luciano has 1. Everybody that's got one loves it. You never walk, it's like an MT-09. Nobody ever says, oh, I'm sorry I bought that bike. Everybody loves certain bikes. They're just off the chart. SV 650. Same thing. You never see anybody complain about it. So anyway, all beside the point. It's his first bike. And what was my advice to him is very simple. As a new rider, go, even if you have to borrow money or whatever, get yourself a good jacket, a good helmet, some decent gloves, and if you don't want to have leather pants, get those ballistic pants that have pads in them, and get a set of boots. And without that, when you're riding around without that, and even the slightest little thing happens, man, it can ruin your whole day. And this is what jumps out at me. This fella Danny was riding with us, one of Glenn's friends, and his father was riding with us. And poor Danny had on sneakers and dungarees and a jacket from the Salvation Army or something. And when he crashed on one of our rides, and he went into the ditch. Man, that was unnecessary. Had he been wearing the proper gear, he would have just got up and walked away. All of the things that he did, and including breaking the bike all up on Ice R6. Anyway, we got his bike fixed for him, and I gave him, this is true, I gave him my spare boots. I felt so sorry for him. He was over here when I was fixing his bike. Anyway. Now, this is always the reason I encourage young guys or new guys that are riding to always wear gear. Wear gear, wear gear. Get a decent helmet. Get decent gloves. Don't get the ones from Home Depot. This was a bunch of us, 8-teamers that were on a ride, and we had a guy with us named Danny. These are the pictures of the day. And, of course, when he crashed, he was in between us in the middle of the pack, and I guess he was trying to keep up with the pack. And a beautiful R6. And it really took a good beating. There's a lot of parts damaged on us, including the clip-ons, which were in the river right now. And luckily, when you're riding with a bunch of guys like we had the A-team, we stuck by them through thick and thin. And Glenn was really good about getting the guy to come by and rescue us. And it was one of his relatives. We couldn't get anybody on the phone, if I remember right. We were in a dead zone, but. Finally, we got somebody to come rescue him. We brought the bike down to my house, and Danny was beat up a little bit, but I felt sorry for him wearing sneakers. I felt so bad, I gave him my old riding boots. Boy, there's a lesson to be learned there. Wear your gear. Moto Sunny. Hey, Moto Sunny. I love this. I love this. He's watching the thing on polishing bolts. Now, let me just... The stuff I get from Amazon, I get all my bolt polishing stuff, most of it from Amazon. It's Chinese replica of Dremel tool stuff. It's about 1/10 the price, and I go through it like water. I buy 100 at a time. That's how I work. Now, there's people at jewelers say that, or if you have a lot of money, hey, buy real Dremel stuff. But that's one of the things that I do. And now always the question is, and I might as well answer this all in one shot. You've polished up a bolt. It's nice and shiny. How do you keep it that way? Well, there's a lot of ways. No, here's my way. I polish the bike every once in a while. That works every time. Or a lot of people, they will. If you live in a big city, there's guaranteed there's a plating place somewhere near your house, and you have a bunch of bolts off the bike in the middle of the winter. Run down with the bolts, and maybe the guy will do them for $10 or something, and they'll be plated. The thing not to do is replace structural bolts with stainless steel bolts, unless it's an alloy, a stainless steel alloy that's the same as the bolt it's replacing. In other words, a bolt that holds the engine in is a structural bolt. Probably, it has a specific hardness. And stainless steel bolts, there are grades of stainless steel. Bolt Depot, by the way, if you're looking to buy stainless steel bolts, Bolt Depot is a great place. Inexpensive, and they ship right to your house. But for cosmetic things, like holding a fairing on, you can use stainless steel bolts. Holding the seat cowl on or something, there's no stress. But what holds the engine in, or what holds the brake calipers on, those are hardened special bolts. So you don't want to compromise them. But anything you polish, if you take some like Colonite wax, or it's really carnauba. The carnauba in the wax is what works. Put plenty of carnauba on there and polish it off. That'll be good for 6 months. And then polish it again, and you're fine. So that's at least the way I do it anyway. Anyway, let me get one of these. Another one. This is not funny. No, not funny at all. But it's a good story worth sharing. It makes you think. Adam, he wanted to know if we have deer in our area. Well, I thought without even thinking, I said, I know Jose has had problems. Pete, people have wrecked bikes with deer. I know a friend of mine in California had a very serious accident on a Ducati with a deer. And so I do know, yeah, I haven't. Now, I'm not calling the devil here or anything, but I've had issues with bears. Now, and I thought it's worth telling a story. I stopped the bike one time up in Sussex County, and there's a nice mountain in the back and a waterfall and everything. I parked the bike. I want to take a picture for the video, and I get down on one knee and I'm focusing in and everything, and out of the corner of my eye, a bear goes across the street. Maybe 50 feet up the road. But I know he saw me because I saw him. And at the end of it, he got to the end of the road and turned around and looked at me. And I was thinking, I don't know what that means. Was he hungry, or is he afraid of me, or I didn't know. But a story worth repeating. Oh my God, this is so funny. Bobby Navola, the late Bobby Navola, we went for a ride on Arden Drive, which is a lot of switchbacks and turns.
in the course of the ride, I'm shooting video, I'm right behind Bob, and he's going like the normal speed we would take on that road. Come around a hairpin, and there's two baby bears right in the middle of the road, like in the middle of each lane. He went right through the middle of them. I looked around, and I said, and they both went, and I said, oh my God, if he had hit one of them, first off, you're going to go off the bike. And the mama bear can't be far away. That's the other thing. So, and if I ever find that video, I know I have that on video, I'll try to tack it on the end of one of the videos. Now, another guy, funny, I don't know if this is, Moto Sonny. He wanted clocks from Amazon. I told him where to get those little clocks on the dashboard. The reason I have a clock, the reason for having a clock, Karen always has, we run our family kind of like on a schedule. She has things for me to do. My kids have things for me to do. And to be honest, I like to have a life under control. I don't have all day to go sit and eat hamburgers or anything. But I like it that way. It's not like I'm being punished or anything. And so I always have these nice clocks. They were, the last time I looked, 3 for $10. And if you can buy the one that says quartz, that one seems a little nicer. But the ones that don't say quartz are fine too. And I saw that they sell a box of 5 if you have multiple bikes. And they have double-sided tape. You can stick them, or in my case, I epoxied them right to the handlebars so they don't fall off. And they're cheap enough, and they really work fine. And some of them double as a thermometer. You can go through the features, and one of them is a thermometer. So if you want to know, gee, I'm out riding and it's 100 degrees, you can see, oh, now I feel even hotter. Best one of the day. Save this for kind of near the end. Mighty Mouse got to answer you. Now I know we're not looking at have altercations with anybody, but he says, I speak alien, and I don't really speak alien, but I do speak Jersey or Brooklyn. I don't know which. Anyway, Mighty Mouse, I hope you can get an interpreter. Anyway, Henry, love this. This is one of my best comments. I've addressed this already. Henry, he thinks the guys that hang out at Perry's are a bunch of cool guys. Henry, if you only knew. It's witness protection. It's witness protection. Look around. You see all the tattoos and scars? These are not guys you really want to hang around with. Yeah, you figure it out. Anyway, now Stephen from Australia sent me some pictures of his bike, which I'm going to put, well, maybe I already put them on here, I don't remember. And he sent me that little gift that we showed. And one other thing he sent, now he's in the medical industry, and in the past he's told me he watches Windy videos. He has an hour train ride to work every day, watches a video. So that's cool. He sent me an article that somebody in Australia in the medical industry that's well respected is working on a thing that riding a motorcycle is one of the things you can do to prevent Alzheimer's. And I've heard that from other people too. Other people think that having a very active brain is good for Alzheimer's. So I'm going to keep riding. Even if it's bad for it, I'm going to keep riding. Anyway, I want to look at the rest of these. I don't make sure I didn't leave anybody out. And if I did leave anybody out, we'll get you on the next time around. This is number 16. And I know there were some people that have gone back and watched all of them. And good for you guys. But it looks like we got everybody covered, I hope. And until the next time we do this, if you have a question, send it in. If you have pictures you'd like to share, send them to me at my email address is fzrguy72618, that's my AMA number, at gmail.com. And I'll try to add your pictures in. And I really wish more people would send in pictures of their bike. We can share it. And the biggest thing to always remember is, if you know something and you've learned it the hard way, it's a wonderful thing to be able to share it, and people don't have to pay the price to learn it. And that's really the reason I started this channel. And again, thanks so much for watching. So at the end of every video, I kind of look back and think about, well, this video got a little long. We had a lot of questions within this next period. Maybe some of you would rather see 2 videos, part 1 and part 2. I don't know. We're going to find out. But for right now, this is serving the purpose we originally started out with. Seems like an awful lot of people enjoy it. The comments section is always full on my channel. And I think most of the information is worth sharing. And hopefully along the way, even you and I have made some new friends.
guys, thank you so much for watching. We post up something every day.